Have you heard of Puzzle 15? I bet you have. I bet you have. You just don't know it. You know those 4x4 tile scrambles where you have to rearrange the sliding pieces into an image? Popeye or the Flinstones. That's Puzzle 15. It's sometimes called Gem or Boss or Mystic Square. This is undiluted hocus pocus on Who Killed Teresa. The 15 puzzle was the original fidget spinner, occupying busy digits a century before the iPhone. The origin of Puzzle 15 is something of a puzzle itself. It became a craze in the 1880s. Game huckster Sam Lloyd said he invented it. He did not. In 2006, Jerry Slocum and Dick Sonneveld published an entire book, a whole book, not about games in general, but specifically about the 15 puzzle, in which they unscrambled some of its mysteries. Here's a quote. Sam Lloyd did not invent the 15 puzzle and had nothing to do with promoting or popularizing it. The puzzle craze that was created by the 15 puzzle began in January 1880 in the US and in April in Europe. The craze ended in July 1880, and Sam Lloyd's first article about the puzzle was not published until 16 years later, January 1896. Lloyd first claimed in 1891 that he invented the puzzle, and he continued until his death, a 20-year campaign to falsely take credit for the puzzle. The actual inventor was Noyce Chapman, the postmaster of Canastota, New York, and he applied for a patent in March 1880. It's a fact. So I conducted a none too scientific lit review of the facts in this passage. I cannot locate any claim by Sam Lloyd in 1891, nor the article from 1896, and Noyce Chapman's patent application will have to remain another lingering mystery. There's no record of it. However, a Noyce S. Chapman was confirmed in a Senate executive session in 1867 as postmaster of Canastota, New York. So people, we do have that fact. Sam Lloyd is an interesting character. He's kind of like a mentor to Martin Gardner, Will Shortz from the New York Times, and in 1914 he authored what's considered kind of a masterpiece called Sam Lloyd's Cyclopedia of 5,000 Puzzles, Tricks, and Conundrums with Answers. That's the full title. Sam Lloyd's Cyclopedia of 5,000 Puzzles, Tricks, and Conundrums with Answers. And in the book, Lloyd takes credit for the 15 puzzle invention. He says, the older inhabitants of Puzzle Land will remember how in the early 70s, it's the 1870s, I drove the entire world crazy over a little box of movable pieces which became known as the 1415 puzzle. The 15 pieces were arranged in the square box in regular order, only with the 14 and 15 reversed as shown in the figure. I'll post a picture online. The puzzle consisted in moving the pieces about one at a time so as to bring them back in the present position in every respect except that the error in the 14 and 15 must be corrected. A prize of $1,000, which was offered for the first correct solution to the problem, has never been claimed. So, I mean, there you have it. The problem is that there's no mention of the 1415 puzzle in the early 70s, as he says in his book. It first came up in January 1880, and about how the fidget wonder excites the public. And by March, the 15 puzzle mania was it was in full bloom. Right? With the Atlanta Constitution reporting how the great 13, 14, 15 puzzle game is racing the brains of thousands, causing neuralgia and headache. Lloyd wasn't associated with the frenzy until 1893, when Connecticut's The Press reported Sam Lloyd as, quote, famous as being the author of Pigs in Clover and the 15 puzzle. I can't confirm this, but we know this thing is a physical object that, there's cheap party favor versions, right, in plastic, but the original ones were metal, with metal tiles. But even before that, I think there wasn't a physical version of it. It was just a puzzle that you figured out theoretically, almost like a crossword puzzle in print, and then you'd send in your solution to the paper. Much like like 100 years later, 100 years, yeah. Although police would do with their puzzles and games in the back of the tabloid. People would send in answers, and there might be a lotto prize of some kind. Some have likened the 15 puzzle hysteria to the Rubik's Cube phenomenon in the 1980s. And it's an apt comparison. And the Rubik's Cube is sort of it's like a three-dimensional version of Puzzle 15, in the sense that Puzzle 15 is flat and two-dimensional. We all know what a cube looks like. In fact, the Rubik's Cube is kind of what happened when you combined like a 2D math puzzle with a 3D block game, Soma, which we talked about earlier, the Soma game. Very recently, there's a British-American mathematician named Henry Segerman, and he took this one step further, and he created a game called Continental Drift. It's a Rubik's Cube in the shape of the Earth. And it's the same idea as taking numbers and associating them with the pictures of the Flintstones and the Rubbles. Finally, because I'm curious about this bullshit, in 1972, U.S. chess grandmaster Bobby Fischer appeared on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and he solved the 15 puzzle in 17 seconds. Not to be outdone by the troubled chess titan, my daughter recently witnessed me solve Soma in under a minute.
Name Bobby Fischer by now. He is, as proved, the best chess player in the entire world. And, you read a lot of articles about Bobby saying he's kind of temperamental and demanding. And he's not. I met him. Somebody told me you were very good at puzzles. Was that?
Yeah, well, that's how I got interested in chess, because I was playing all the other games, and they just were too easy. So
somebody told me there was one puzzle that they were going to try to get. Did they get it? And what was the name of it?
They got it.
You mentioned it.
15 puzzle.
Yeah. In the back, it's right there.
This thing here.
Yeah.
No, I'm not familiar with this.
Yeah.
What is this?
Well, you try and get them all aligned, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
There are
6,
little
7,
squares in there, and there's
9,
one
10,
empty
11, 12,
square.
13, 14, 15.
And you try to get them.
Yeah.
Well, is that difficult?
No, it's very easy. I'm the fastest in the world with this. I don't like to boast, but...
Well, we'll see about that, Bob.
because I used to do this.
I'm pretty good at puzzles myself, They're all mixed up now.
Yeah. Well, they're not too well mixed up. Well, 1 and 2 are close.
2, 7, 4, 8, 1, 6, 3, 12, 11, 15.
Want to mix it up a little better?
I used to go bananas with that one. How long does it take you to do it?
Well, this is not really a good, it's not all oiled up. It's not a real good set, so it might take me 30 seconds or so, but with a real good set, I can do it about 20.
Okay, does that look mixed up?
Yeah, it's a little harder, yeah. Okay, ready?
Ready?
No, those are all mixed up.
All right, go.
All right. It needs to be oiled. That costs this was not very well mixed up. I want to say that. It wasn't well mixed up. Yeah.
Oh,
17.
no.
Well, they didn't mix it up to, it takes about 30 seconds.
Want to mix it up a little bit?
Each Nissan sheep. Each Nissan sheep.
It's not easy to do. I've been fiddling with one here with white and red tiles from the 50s, and it's a pain in the arse, frankly. And you know, if I didn't already say it, they talk about puzzle 15, puzzle 14, 15, puzzle 13, 14, 15. Puzzle 15 is solved when the numbers are arranged in sequential order. So that's a kind of numerology, and that is a clumsy transition to rip into what I really want to talk about today. Old leather apron himself, Jack the Ripper, and numbers. I'm not an expert on numerology, but it's kind of the belief that there's some kind of synchro-mystical relationship with numbers. Pythagoras thought they carried secret codes, and that this is carried over to influence everything from Nostradamus to tetraphobia, the fear of the number 4. And of course, there, as there always is, there's a subset of numerology inclusive to interpreting the Whitechapel murders and Jack the Ripper. So this is just one example from what I found in the zany world of numerology. Mary Nichols is widely assumed to have been the first Ripper murder on Bucks Row on August 31st, 1888. And there's a Pythagorean system of assigning letters to numbers that I'm not going to go into fully. You can look it up. But from that date of August 31st, one naturally comes to the initials JKS, which then naturally leads to the name James Kenneth Stephen. I mean, what idiot can't see that, right? So Stephen is the guy who was a tutor for the House of Windsor. He's part of that Ripper theory, Ripperology, that supposes the whole thing was part of a cabal conspiracy involving the British royals. And this is all from an online post on numerology, in which finally the author triumphantly summarizes, "This is how the occult is used in solving murder mysteries. What ordinary men cannot see." Which, I must be super ordinary. Because not only do I not see it, I thought the Whitechapel murders were unsolved. But why let facts stand in the way of numerology? So there's another kind of tin hat post on this topic discussing the significance of the year 1888. I didn't quite notice that. It's rather obvious, but that Ripper mania and Puzzle 15 mania were all unfolding at the same time. That's mystosyncratic. But anyway, 1888, if you add the numbers, you get the number 25. So, okay, I'm with you so far. And, well, in numerology, 25 apparently holds all sorts of sacred meanings. 25 represents, quote, a dark time in Whitechapel. Yeah, no shit. And this post goes on to say, for the assailant, it points to an unbalanced individual. See previous parenthetical. Also, that the person who was behind the Ripper killings was born with the characteristics of the 8 influencing his life. Okay, I can sort of get what that means. And then he burned with ambition, enjoyed taking risks, was a loner, and blah, 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 blah. You kind of get the point. Obviously, we are giant steps away from behavioral profiling. That's numerology. Curtain. End of scene. As some of you are aware or not, in 2002, the Canada's National Post mistakenly reported that all 3 victims of the Eastern Township's murders were found on a Good Friday, and that there was implied significance to that. And I've never really lived that down since that reporting. Not only is it not true, Good Friday 1977 was April 8th. Louise Cameron was not found on Good Friday. And anyway, it wouldn't really mean anything, even if it was true that they were all found on Good Friday. There's a logical explanation for bodies turning up on the holidays. People have time off. They can dedicate their leisure hours to strolling along lakes and streams and in the woods. And they find things, and that's what that means. It's kind of like saying a killer is motivated by the phases of the moon, which they did with the Danielle Couillard in the 74-75 murders of Norma O'Brien and Debbie Fisher. They called Danielle Couillard the full moon killer. And to that, you kind of go, yeah, so? Big deal. Show me a killer who committed all his murders on Good Friday, and I'd say maybe you might have something there. And there you have it. I've gone and done it. I have named the murderer of Norman O'Brien and Debbie Fisher, something for years that was thought to have been part of some taboo publication ban. So he who was not to be named. He can be named. His name is Daniel Couillard. I believe he's out and living about in the Montreal area after having served a very short, light sentence in mental facilities after the 74-75 deaths in the Chateauguay area of the South Shore of Quebec. I don't ever know why we couldn't say his name, since the newspapers clearly said his name. I'll post a visual to that, testifying to that on the website teresaallore.com, TheresaAllore.com.
Never used to cry 'cause I was all alone. For me, myself, and I is all I've ever known. I never felt the need to have a hand to hold. And everything I do, I take complete control. That's where I'm coming from. My lucky number's 1. Have everything I need to keep me satisfied. There's nothing you can do to make me change my mind. Having so much fun. My lucky number's 1.
Here's a puzzle. What happened to Marilyn Bergeron? This week marks the 15th anniversary of the disappearance of the 24-year-old girl who today would have been 39. Bergeron left her home on the morning of February 17th, 2008. She did not return. An ATM security camera in Loretteville recorded her attempting to withdraw money early in the afternoon. She was last seen almost 5 hours later after leaving her home at a coffee shop in Levy. Several sightings of Marilyn have been reported since then, especially in the areas of southern Ontario just outside Quebec, but none have been confirmed. The Quebec police continue to speculate that Bergeron committed suicide, which is absurd. 15 years and no body. Where did she go? She go to the elephant's graveyard? The family fears she met with foul play, possibly sold into the Quebec sex trade. Could someone fall off the map for 15 years and still be hiding in plain sight? Definitely. This was an immediate fear in the 1990 disappearance of Lise Brisebois, which we talked about last week. Before her remains were found in that field near Rainville, Brisebois had been missing for 9 months, and speculation was that she had been abducted into the sex trade. In July 1990, her sister, Marie-Andrée Brisebois, told the Montreal Gazette that she heard of girls and women being kidnapped from shopping centers, then eventually forced into prostitution. By October, her parents reiterated this theory, telling the news media they feared their daughter had been kidnapped, drugged, and forced into prostitution. The idea gained momentum when, later that month, another young girl vanished on her way from her parents' house to do some banking and visit a pharmacy. 20-year-old Pascal Lemaire was found later that October, shot in a field at Saint-Mathieu de la Prairie. Guy Bisonnet would eventually face a second-degree murder charge for her death. In these cases, the narrative was not accurate, but the Quebec sex trade industry remains a threat to young women in the province. Like Bergeron, no one knows the whereabouts of Nathalie Goodbeau. The 26-year-old has been missing for 22 years, last seen in September 2000 after leaving her home in Lévis, Quebec, the same place where Bergeron disappeared. So something to think about, something to ponder. Hawkesbury comes up a lot with Marilyn. The family's focusing on the area of Hawkesbury, Quebec, which, because of a sighting, a man witnessed a young girl matching Marilyn's description knocking on her door shortly after her disappearance. So they fear she might still be in the Hawkesbury area, or that was the point of landing before she was taken somewhere else. And I think I've said it before. I have friends who live in Hawkesbury. It's right on the border of near Ottawa and Quebec, across the Ottawa River. And it's a peaceful place. It's a scary place. You want to mind yourself there. Finally, I promise you an update on the Brisebois case. Not an update, just some more information. One of the advantages of acting like, Mr. Smarty Pants, the smartest guy in the room, is that if you're lucky, that will provoke someone, and someone will come along and tell you why they're smarter. And it turns out that's exactly what happened. Somebody came forward and told me that Guy Croteau isn't the only suspect in the Brisebois murder. So I was told that one of her boyfriends, and kind of have to couch this, but you know who I mean. If I say, oh, well, it doesn't matter. Her boyfriend was Gaetan. Somebody said that apparently Gaetan used to go hunting on the property in Rainville where she was found, and that he had, severe issues with impulsivity and aggression. He's not my suspect, right? Or person of interest. He's not my suspect's Guy Croteau. So I'll just say it. Somebody thinks it might be Gaetan. To which I say I've kind of heard this one before. Manon Dubé was found on property owned by her family, so the family must have been involved. Blah 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 blah. It's kind of cockeyed logic. If it's true, why isn't Lise Brisebois' boyfriend? Why isn't Gaetan in jail? And it still doesn't explain Joanne Marcellet and Annette Labelle. The theory doesn't account for them, so it's unresolved. For me, my money's on the guy convicted of murder and a collection of sexual assaults, not a boyfriend who might have been a bit disturbed.
La la la, la la la, she calls me her sweet papa. She's got me hooked, line and sinker. She's everywhere I turn. But when I'm not...
If you like the podcast, you can follow us on social media. We're at Twitter at Justice Guy, JUSTUSGUY. There's a Facebook page, Who Killed Teresa, the podcast. There's also one for Undiluted Pocus, Pocus Hocus, Undiluted Hocus Pocus. If you want to follow us there, that's fine. You can listen to us on Speaker, Apple, iTunes, SoundCloud, I don't know, Spotify, wherever you want to listen to us. Follow us for the most engaged experience on Substack. I'm at johnalor.substack.com. You can subscribe to the newsletter and to the site too, and that way you'll get all postings, including a commercial-free version of this podcast. That's all for this week. This has been Undiluted Hocus Pocus on Who Killed Teresa. I'm your host, John Allure. Have yourselves a great, great day.
She fit me to a T.